Hello, my trans and gender expansive family. How are you guys today?
Good.
All good.
Fab.
All good.
Fab, fab, fab. Well, thank you for being here today for the Femhouse fam that is tuning in. I am her Mix-a-Lot, co-founder and head of culture of Femhouse, and this is a Pass the Mic artist roundtable for trans and non-binary artists. To me, it's so important today, this month, especially today in this moment, as across the world, as a queer person, our rights are just being chipped away at legislatively in every which way. And there's it can oftentimes feel sort of hopeless, right? It can oftentimes feel sort of futile to do anything. But you know what? We work in dance music. We're in the music industry. We're creatives. We are all full of joy. We have a lot to say, a lot to offer the world. And to me, it felt important to have this moment to amplify you all and your voices and have a little bit of healing, have a little bit of joy in our little corner of the music industry universe. So I appreciate y'all being here with me about that.
Yeah, all good. Sweet.
Thank you.
This is Star Amerasu, a multidisciplinary artist of all types. You want to watch a movie? The baby's got it. You want to catch the best DJ set you've ever seen? The baby's got it. You want to just turn a look? You want to gag? You want to live? You want to laugh? The baby's got it. One of my favorite artists that I've been watching since I was a baby queer myself, and I'm just so inspired by everything that you do, and I'm so glad that you're here with us. Thank you.
Wow, I love that. Great intro. Thank you.
We also have Ryussi out of the UK,
Hello, hello.
an electronic music artist that I am a big fan of. Thank you for being here and sharing space and being so
Awesome.
prompt and wonderful about emailing. It's so polite. Kind
Yeah,
regards.
it's all good.
Kind regards. You always sign an email. I
Oh,
appreciate that.
it was drilled into me because I used to work in digital marketing, so it's like all the etiquette, I can't get rid of it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And Baby Weight, we've been talking to this girl all week long, all month long. Baby Weight actually helped me curate this along with all of our other Pride programming this month. Needs no intro to me, but thanks for being here too.
Of course, we're holding space.
We're holding space where it's giving
Yeah,
spaciousness.
yeah, totally.
Open format, locked plan.
I want to start just like with like the really easy stuff that I like to get curious about. I'm curious what like prompted all of you to start your artistic journeys and say, I have a theory that queer people are the most creative people in the universe. So it is very much in us. But what prompted y'all to start doing what you're doing?
Who wants to go? Yeah,
Anybody?
go on, go. Yeah, go.
Um, when I was 10 years old, I remember there was like a choir. I had skipped fifth grade. Like I was in fifth grade for half the year, and then I went to sixth grade. And when I went to the middle school, they had a choir. In the elementary school, they didn't have that. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I got into it, and I remember there was like a solo that we had an audition for, and I was like, I'm gonna get that motherfucking solo. And I stood there and I sang my little heart out, and it was giving, and they did not give me that solo. And it was from that
What?
moment on that I realized that I'm not gonna stop until I get the solo. And by the solo, I mean make a lasting impact on the hearts and minds of the public.
I think you did pretty good
Thank you.
with that. And you know what? I'm sure those girls gag every day when they see you do all the things that you do. Like, damn, we really should have gave the
They
solo. We
probably
were
just
tripping.
they don't even recognize it. I mean, they're probably just like fans. They don't even know that I was that little kid who
That's
didn't get
even
that
better.
solo.
That's even better. What about you, Ryusi?
So, in junior school, which is around the ages of like 7, 8, I used to really listen to Green Day and like love them, like absolutely study them and everything. When I used to do the MTV World Tour German episode, I used to watch that like religiously. So I got into playing drums because I wanted to be like Trey Cool. And then when I got to high school, I was like, oh, I'm more of a front person. So I started to learn guitar. and that carried on for a bit. Was like singing and songwriting, playing guitar, doing covers and whatnot. And like people that went to high school with me now, I always used to do the end of year assembly. Like I missed like 1 year, but that was like a constant thing. Like Two Door Cinema Club, Owl City, like, just proper nerdy, right? And then I got to end of college, and then I went to my first rave, which, you know, that's when like a light bulb switch goes off in your head, and you're like, oh, so this is how I can translate my music. Like, I enjoy making people dance. And I saw Pete Tong. He was the first guy that I saw, and it was like his presence, the way that he just carried the room. It was literally like a spiritual kind of experience, right? 'Cause obviously music is. So it was from that moment I was like, okay, I'm gonna start producing, change my name, and yeah, been doing that since 2016.
That's amazing. Was it like so like so many artists that I talk to have that same sort of trajectory. It's like there's always something creative, there's always music sort of brewing around in the spirit, and then they go to their first rave or they see their first DJ set that changes their life. Was it just
Yeah.
like you say it's like it was like a light bulb, but it's just like this is electronic music, like that is what I do, that is my calling. That's how it happened for you?
100%. It was instantaneous. Where I was literally like, I can envision myself where he's standing, and like carrying that same sort of energy around the room. It was just like, oh, it makes sense. Like, this is why I'm so hyperactive. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, after that, there was no question about it. I did tell my mum, I was like, I don't want to be like into IT anymore. I want to do music. And she was like, well. So yeah.
Baby, wait, what about you? What was your light bulb moment?
Well, for me, it's twofold. One, ever since I was a little child, I was always a slut for attention. So that's the first piece of the puzzle. But the second piece of the puzzle, even when I was a very young teenager, I was, you know, making mixtapes for my friends, making mixtapes in my spare time. You know, always like obsessed with like what new music, like what's the new free iTunes single of the week, like just constantly, you know, paying attention to that type of stuff, and like watching, you know, the Glunjamin videos on YouTube, and looking at all these photos of these parties in like New York and LA. Shout out to Tumblr for really being an inspirational platform for me as a young teen and as a young person in my 20s. And then similar to, you know, like Ryussi's story, I was in college. I was studying film at the time, planning to be an attention whore in a different aspect of the industry, and went to a
What aspect of the industry was that?
oh, I was studying film at the time,
Oh,
and
that
it was,
tracks.
yeah, honey, have you followed my letterboxed? But the but I was studying film at the time, and I had it in my head that I was going to be like a stand-up comedian, like I was going to be like a Rebel Wilson type. And then I went to a music festival, which, you know, I would go to shows all the time, but then I went to this one specific music festival where LCD Sound System was the headliner, and uh was in the pit for that show. And the moment the drop happened during their first song, which was Dance Yourself Clean for that show, I instantly was like, oh yeah, this is what I want. I want to feel like this for the rest of my life. And so from there, I, you know, became an obsessive, like most kids with TISM, and started, you know, like finding out like, okay, what musicians did these musicians look up to, and what do they do in their spare time? Oh, they're DJs. Okay, cool. So like, what kind of records are they playing? Oh, they're playing these records, and they're sharing these records, and they're playing this, and they're playing that. And one thing led to another, and me and my hipster friends who would, you know, do various amounts of drugs and throw experimental parties, I we started making it a point to play whatever records were in our collection at the time, and not like mixing them or anything, but playing one record at a time, A side, flip it over, then B side. then the cool kids who weren't jocks with the IQs of watermelons would realize that we were throwing cool kid parties and, you know, playing stuff that was, you know, kind of the music of the time, be it like the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Phoenix, LCD Sound System, Two Door Cinema Club, which we stand. And also, you know, like a little bit of Bloghouse mixed in there, and like, you know, some Barbara Streisand here, maybe some like old school Calvin Harris back when he was making like indie dance, new disco type stuff. And yeah, that just kind of became a self-fulfilling cycle to where I am now, which is just a walking meat sack filled with knowledge that
Just
is
a boulder
useless.
rolling downhill, huh?
Yeah, just, you know, she's terminal velocity at this point. No stopping it.
I'm curious from all of you, Baby Wait, I know that you came out as trans in, was it 2020 and 2021?
2020, yeah.
And you know, you'd been at it in your career for a little bit. I'm curious about all of y'all's relationship with coming out, and how that's connected to your creative journeys, and also, you know, depending on when you did it, how you found that to have impacted your public facing careers. And Baby Wait, I'll start with you since you know you yap it anyway. You're the only one off mute right now, so.
Yeah, sure. For me, I was closeted for the first 2/3 of my career. I was dealing with a lot of like internalized guilt and shame and stuff related to my personal journey, particularly how I grew up and where I went to high school. And so I was wrestling with this feeling of I'm different, but I don't know how I'm different. I don't have the vocabulary for it. And college and the internet, particularly Tumblr and Instagram, really kind of like helped me open my eyes to some of these possibilities. And through most of my 20s, I found myself fighting with these parts of myself. I came out in 2020. It's worth noting that I was outed by a stranger. I was doxxed
Mm.
on Facebook. So I was kind of forced into coming out. I was planning on coming out at some point. And, you know, it was kind of a blessing in disguise because it allowed me to have a bit of a fresh start. In terms of how it impacted my journey, I see my music being much more authentic to who I am as a person and to what my influences are and to like what my overall vibe is. Whereas before, it, you know, it's like kind of, I listen to my older music now and it's like kind of, it's like, oh yeah, like there's definitely, I'm not putting my whole bussy into this at all. Like it's very clear this is like 70% of what I'm capable of.
Not
Um,
70% bussy capacity. That's crazy.
yeah, 70% bussy capacity means that you can fit at least three more fingers in there.
Oh
And so
God.
we,
I have to put this
so
on YouTube. Bet you're gonna make it real tricky with the metadata,
sorry,
girl.
sorry. Um, this episode brought to you by Leapfrog. So, uh, um, this episode brought to you by Rush.
Stop, bro.
Sorry, Jungle Juice. We so anyway, rewinding. Um, so I found myself kind of like I'm making music that's more authentically me. I'm making music that is like I can be less afraid to share parts of myself, because like I figured that I might wind up the fear when you come out as queer after you started your career is that like, oh, is the music industry going to mark me as a niche now,
Mm.
and put me in a box where it's like I'm only playing to one type of crowd in one type of venue, And when I'm making music that can appeal to a much broader demographic, like, yes, the person is queer, yes, it's very clear, but it's like a straight cisgender person can enjoy a John Waters movie just as much as a queer person can. So it's like, you know, kind of wrestling with that idea. I would say, in terms of things that I've noticed post coming out, and it's something I have a lot of guilt about, and something that I wrestle with, and something that I try to do positive work with, is because I spent so much of my career in the closet prior to coming out. I still benefit from some of the privilege that I had before, that I realized that, like, maybe if I had been openly queer and also identified as a trans female at the beginning of my career, I might not have had those same doors or windows opened for me by some of my cisgender, straight, heterosexual white peers, whatever you want to classify the patriarchy as. And I'm aware of that. And so, in terms of like everything that I do moving forward, it's all about being cognizant of, like, if I have an opportunity to do something cool or to do something interesting, I want to make sure that I'm pulling up my siblings behind me, so that whatever benefits and advantages I get, they also get. So that way they're not being gate kept by other people. So, for example, if a promoter is like, oh, we want to book you for a thing, it's like, okay, cool. Then I want complete control over the entire lineup, who's opening for me, this, that, and the other, like, period, the end, or we're not doing the show. Because I need to make sure that, it's like we are highlighting and prioritizing people that otherwise you might not give a chance to. Because
That's
they're,
such a good point, and that's such an easy way. A question I get asked all the time from all sorts of artists, but especially ally artists, is like, how can I help? What can I do? That's such an easy, low lift example that you just provided. If you're getting booked for a show, say, listen, some of these have to be for the dolls. Some of these slots need to be for the queers. Some of these spots need to be for the people of color. What does your staff look like? Is your security sensitive to people that might be coming in for a show? It's especially important for a film house show, right? Because we're often going into these really mainstream, very specific reputation places. And it's just like, does your security know how to be kind to queer people? Does your security know, can you put signs over your gendered bathrooms and make them not gendered, right? Like, just like really simple sorts of things that can positively impact the community at large, that are relatively low lift in the grand scheme of things.
yeah. So that's been my TED talk. I'm going to get off the soapbox now and let someone else kind
Star,
of
I'm
take
curious
the.
about your experience as a black trans woman. You know, black trans women, there's nothing harder in the world to be than a black trans woman. When you like look at the statistics and you think about like trans violence, like black trans women make up like less than a percentage of the trans community, account for like 75% of the deaths of the violence. Um, my favorite thing about you as an artist is that you lead with so much joy. You lead with so much um, sort of, whenever I've experienced your work, there's a really specific sort of healing and the freedom and the liberation that you represent and that you sort of lead with. But, you know, and I understand you holding that and holding like what it is actually to be a black trans woman in the world. So what's been your experiences um, as a as an icon, of course, but also like in this music industry?
Well, I transitioned when I was 19.
Hmm.
And so, as like a professional, I've only made stuff as a trans woman. Like, I was like a teenager. So I think my experience is, it's not unique, but I definitely transitioned like in 2011. So I got to be like a trans girl and a hipster and like have my like American Apparel was still open when I was you know what I mean? Like I could go shopping. I was having a conversation with my friend, and I was like, oh my God, like these kids don't even know like what it would be like to go into American Apparel.
Santa Monica and La Cienega, baby, like
Exactly.
forever.
So I think the interesting thing is I actually started making music because I was doing theater first. So I was like 19 and got cast in theater shows in San Francisco and 20, and I was doing like queer arts festival, like theater things. And then I was thinking to myself, like, oh, I tried to do mainstream theater stuff and it wasn't working. And I was like, a lot of stuff is based on roles. Like, you are a Black woman, you play the Black women roles. You are a trans woman, you play trans women roles, and there's like no trans women roles. So
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God, if I want to be a star, I'm gonna make music. Like, that's how you become a bigger like artist. So I started doing like m shows in San Francisco, and I think it's a different space. Like, I've always
Yes.
felt very uplifted in San Francisco. I was able to meet the right people and get into like the queer arts festival circuit, and then suddenly like I was 21 and my first big job was being asked to make the soundtrack to like a documentary about Miss Major, who was one of the icons at Stonewall, and she also started. She sort of planted the seed for TGIJP, the Transgender Intersex Gender Variant Justice Project in San Francisco, which helps incarcerated trans people. So I feel like I had those. And I was young, right? So I'm 21, and so then I see I'm like making a soundtrack to this movie that about like a revolutionary, and I think then I absorbed that into my praxis as I continued making art. So now I feel like I definitely don't like the music industry itself, and I think that I've been potentially overlooked, but that's honestly okay because like I'm in it for the long I'm in it a long game, and I think music itself has a very fast half-life, and like the turnover is really quick, and when there's like an emphasis to make things really fast and get them out, and I don't necessarily see that working for me personally, and I can see a lot of people burning out and also like being their part that they are in the zeitgeist ends quickly because they're like we're on this super fast turnaround, and I'm not on that. I'm excited to be like a 40-year-old trans woman, 50-year-old, 60-year-old, and I don't think I have a lot of examples of that right now, especially in music. We don't have any examples of like trans women, white included, who are older making art and conversation. So we'll be the first generation, I think, that has that because there's so many of us. So I'm excited to be part of that.
That's incredible. I really love you sort of naming that, you came out before you came to the industry in any capacity. So you led with that part of yourself. You immersed yourself in your career at the same time you're immersing yourself personally in your identity, and that you can feel that with everything that you do, baby, like the joy, the unapologeticness, like fearlessness, like you can feel that very much in everything that you touch in your career. And I think that's what is part of what has made your art resonate with the community, especially for the baby queers. Like I became aware, in 2011. I had been in San Francisco for a year, and so I was there for all of that. I've been watching you since then. And like that is the first time that me myself as a queer person, even having been born and raised in LA and worked in West Hollywood, when I came out as a teenager, that was the first time that I saw queer creatives creating their own ecosystem and creating their own economy of music, of film, of art, of culture, and having that be fine, having that be the aspiration, having that not be sort of, I think we're often sold this narrative of like, the queer like niche is like the stepping stone to the bigger thing, right? And it's just like, no, the queer ecosystem is the thing. You know what I mean? Like that is the thing. So
They
that's
got
really
gay people
powerful.
everywhere. They got gay
Everywhere.
people everywhere, mama. Every country's got some gay kind of LGBTQIA plus queer community. And I've met them and I've done shows in like random ass places, and I'm like, oh, there's like people here. Like I remember doing a show in like Meaford, Ontario, in like rural Canada, and then there was like a bunch. I was like at a music festival that was like all kinds of people, but then like I'm there, and then there's all these little queer randoms there, and I was like, right, like period.
Period. Ryussi, what has been your experience with that? Like, when did you come out with respect to starting your professional career, and like what's been the overarching like relationship between the two?
So, I mean, if you look at pictures of me as a child, like it was very obvious. It was so obvious, as a kid, it was like, oh yeah, she's just a little tomboy. And then my parents knew when I came out in high school, people were like, there's why are you telling us? Like we
Yeah.
can see it sort of thing. But I think the best way this girl described how I am is we were standing outside of science before the lesson, and she was like, "Oh, I don't see Zoe as female male. I just see Zoe as Zoe," and that's always like stuck in my head because now I've gotten to this point where obviously there's more terminology for it, but I'm like, I just literally feel like me, and I've always shown up that way all through my life. So as I said, you look at pictures of me in year 7, 11 years old, I've got like a white shirt on with a black vest, sleeveless vest, like playing my guitar. So it's yeah, I've always just seen that. But the struggle that I had really was first kind of like breaking away from my family's idea of me because I moved out when I was 17, and the main drive for that was because I knew because I wanted to pursue this career in music, it was always a kind of not under our house thing. So my parents didn't go out raving, didn't do any of that. They just saw it as this very like sodomistic lifestyle. Like they couldn't understand it. Like they used to listen to Fela Kuti, and there was always like African music or gospel music playing in the house every Saturday. But any other side of that was like, don't touch that. But I've always been drawn to that kind of energy. And so, I tell them I'm going to play a gig in London. They're like, okay, let us know when you get back. Like me telling them I was coming back at 4 a.m. Like like years ago it would not have been a conversation, but they do understand it now. But I mean the people who have helped me out, I've always just naturally attracted straight cis men, white men. And the reason for that, like in friendship groups, is because it's like the old sweatshirt line, too white for the black kids. Like that's how it was. I used to get called all sorts like nappy headed, etc. by my own community. And then being technically the only gay in the village, if you want to call it that, in high school, it was like I was always just on my own sort of like my own little nimbus cloud, just doing whatever, and then people just knew me because of the music. So when it got to a point where I kind of like left education, and then I went to that party, I went to the first rave where I saw Pete Tong or Taste the Punch. It was a case of I'd always be there, and then the two brothers who ran it, Dean and Craig Shields, I sent them a mix, and they were like, "Oh yeah, cool, like just jump on, warm up. We always see you supporting, so come and warm up." So I'd warm up the bar, and I was playing that event for a good couple of years until it shut. And the last event I played there was when Roger Sanchez played the main room, and coincidentally, I'd started working for his digital marketing team. So it's so weird for it to full circle, but everyone that I've met has always wanted to help me, like push me along. So I'm very thankful that I haven't really felt friction in that sense, but I feel like it's partly because they see me as one of the lads.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh yeah, like they don't see me as like I don't know what they would see me as, but I feel like there's that advantage in the sense that they see me and approach me as a guy. So it's just like, yeah, you're right, mate. Sound like they don't look at me in a way where they see me as not up to their level. Like how unfortunately bad men do treat women. So you know what I mean. So I got a completely different kind of welcoming to the scene, and I think it's genuinely because of the people that I was around anyways just wanted to see me do better and wanted to give me the space. And so I think when it came time to meeting someone who was part of the community who wanted to give me a launch pad and was in a position to do so, which was like fair play, was Jaguar at Radio 1. And she was the first one, not only well, obviously putting a lot more time and effort into queer artists because we need to be. The best way I describe it is like when I look at some of these lineups, it's like the same track being played for 8 hours straight. There's no diversity, there's no other perspective, like musical taste. It's all just the same talentless thing. and it's a bit like a circle jerk because they're all like, oh yeah, well, our mates, you know what I mean? So it's a weird one. So when Jaguar came along and she started to give more people from the community a chance to get played on Radio One, which is how Brains and Sophia from He She They found me, because they said,
Mhm.
well, we heard you on Jaguar show. It's things like that. It's if you don't have the representation there, you feel like you're just walking into a brick wall. You feel like the ceiling, like where is the ceiling? What is it? Because you can't see people like you. And for example, even on my streaming artists, I'm like, no one else looks like me. Or my related artists, it is only me who looks like me. Like, how is that possible? You can't tell me that I'm the only person that whose spirit presents itself in the way that it does is making that kind of music. That doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So if I can get to a position where you can put the ladder down behind you, and I really want to get to a point where I'm able to do what Sherelle did, which is create beautiful music, which is like the open studio. You can come in and make music. It's free. You know what I mean? And just help people. That's how you build your own little ecosystem, isn't it? And it feeds back. And I really don't understand it, because it's like you have this whole demographic of human beings, like they're all about profit, right? They love profit. Everything's for profit. You have this whole group of human beings who you are purposefully ignoring. What? Because your shareholders don't want, like, you're stupid. You're stupid because you're
Yeah.
complaining that, oh, the industry's stale now. What's happened to the industry? It's like you've made your own bed. You know what I mean? Like, if you do it differently, maybe bring other people who, like, yeah, it's all 1+1 to all of us, obviously. But yeah, I feel like if I can, well, I know I'm gonna do music. Like, that's just, it's not a question about. I know that's like, it's a natural thing to do. So yeah, that's how I'd like to kind of like circle it back and help. Which is why when He She Day mentioned to come on here, I was like, yeah, definitely, 100%. So it's all part of the
Yeah,
puzzle.
we just had a chat. Baby Wade and I had a chat with Brains the other day, also on live stream, and
Mm,
like, thank God for folks like Brains and He She They, and for Jaguar, and
mm,
for Joe Wiseman and Insomniac, and just like there's so many people that I could name that have sort of, and I think it's very unique to our generation too. Like the way that we think about diversity. And it's almost
mm.
like I almost like I'm so sick of that fucking word. Like it feels like a slur to me at this point, because it's just like
Yeah,
is it diversity, or is it just like basic human respect for things that aren't exactly like what you are? You know what I mean? Like, but
yeah,
unfortunately, it's like it's the buzzword, it's the concept, but like all these folks in power that I've watched ascend to power at this time, like our generation's idea of diversity and equity, inclusion, like it's normal for us, right?
yeah.
Like it's
It's a
it's very
no-brainer, like.
much, there's no, it's not like we're not overthinking. It's just like normal. It's just like our friend
Mm,
groups look are diverse. Like that's the world that we grew up in. And I feel like culturally, the generation prior to us that was in power, um, they sort of, diversity is like a box that you check, and not
yeah,
necessarily a cultural lifestyle that one, abides by. And it's just like, so if you're checking a box, it's just like, I need a black person, check. I need a brown person, check. Oh shit, forgot about the gays, like check. And it's just like, that's just one person from this broad swath of people that are in no way monoliths. So like if you,
mm,
like the very basic nature of diversity is that if you let more people into the fold, diversity of experience, diversity of thought, diversity of music taste, diversity of sexuality, diversity of gender presentation, like all the ways that you can slice and dice diversity. Quite literally, if you just let more people around that are different, you're going to get different points of views, you're going to get different records, you're going to get different shows, you're going to get different tastes. And it's like it's so simple. And folks that
mm,
like Brains and Jaguar and Mag and DJ Mag and like all the folks that are doing this work on the ground as they like move into power, like they get that. And it's so crazy that it's taken so long to get that, and
yeah,
that still the cruise ship is still like chugging along slowly, because it's just like it feels so fucking simple to me, right?
Yeah,
Like you just said, it just
100%.
feels so simple. I'm
Yeah,
curious, from all of you, like one of the things that unfortunately like marginalized people have to contend with often, especially as like we sort of like fight through this lack of diversity, is like we then become representatives of like these groups um, to other people, and like I'm wondering, one, like what's been y'all's experience with that, and two, like I find it overwhelming oftentimes. I find it a privilege, and also I find it like, damn, can I just be low real quick? Do I have to be the fucking black trans mask fucking queer person like representative? You know what I mean? Like, so what's y'all's relationship with that in your careers, and especially on the business tip?
I can only speak for myself. Um, I find myself feeling like it's a privilege just because there's a lot of younger people out there who are desperately trying to find people that they relate to just because they're in corners or pockets of the world where not only are they a minority, but like maybe they're the only person in their town or they're, one of maybe a handful of people who um, maybe they're not queer, but they're on a different wavelength than everyone else. Um, and so I find myself feeling like it's a point of pride to be in a position like this. And it does, and sometimes it does get exhausting. I have a very, I, honey, I'm protected by a computer right now. So like, it's very easy for me to talk, but like, if you corner me in a room and I'm surrounded by strangers, I get real introspective real quick. This flower closes the hell up. Um, so, it's like I have to remind myself sometimes that I am in a very gifted position that a lot of people would kill for. And I'm not even, as far as like the totem pole goes, and in terms of this industry, I'm not even near the middle, let alone the top. So, just to be at my position, knowing that there's people underneath me who would do anything to be where I'm at, let alone anyone else, um, I have to kind of like take a deep breath and appreciate that. And my manager turned agent, John, who Lo knows, and who Amerasu and Ryussi. I can't wait for you to meet him at one point. Um, he reminded me one time, because he knows I have issues with anxiety sometimes in social settings. He was like, these people came to see you play to feel joy. If swallowing your anxiety for 5 seconds just to make them feel seen um, is the hardest part of your day, then that you live a pretty easy life. And so that's just something I try to remind myself is that, we are in a lot of ways bringing joy to people who have immense difficulty finding it sometimes. And so if that means, I'm the token in the room or whatever, um, in some of these scenarios, like, so be it. It is what it is. If that means that one kid feels the energy to live another day, then it's worth it at that point to even to be perceived that way. Um, so that's my perception on the thing. Yep.
Star, Ryussi, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, so like at the start, I kind of didn't want to be so associated with the label. And I don't know why, I think that was kind of like an eternal battle as well. And I was like, oh, do I want to kind of? I think the reasoning behind that is because I grew up around a lot of straight people, well, majority. So I feel like when you start to come into who you are, you kind of don't want to be the annoying kind of like, even though it's not being annoying, you're acknowledging who you are and the fact that you relate to so many people who are isolated or haven't met their community yet. And
It's
I was
like
kind of
being
like,
a
oh,
vegan in a room full of meat-eating people.
that is it. That is it. Thank you. You've saved me the word from it. That is literally it. Spot on. Spot on. Oh, that's brilliant. So now I've come to a place where I'm like, I just don't care anymore. Like, I just don't care. Like, our community get a lot of shit. You guys are pretty sound over there. Like, if I have to be in your eyes, oh, like Ryussi's posting the gay shit, yeah, like, I don't care. I really don't care. Like, at the end of the day, when I play all these beautiful queer events, they're going in harder, they're dancing in harder. You're meeting so many different characters, so many beautiful people. And then I'm sorry, when I go to just like a club where it's just dry. It's boring. It's boring. Everyone's standing around, like in SpongeBob with the fish. And they're all just standing around, and it's like that's what it's like because there's no essence to it. There's no atmosphere. And so now I'm just at a point where I'm just like, again, like if I want to be able to get to a place where someone sees me and goes, oh, I'm inspired by what they do, and they look like me, or they present themselves in the world in the same way that I do, like that's blessed. That's blessed because again, like represent that you do need to see people who look like you. You just really do. So now I'm just like, no, it's cool. That's who I am. So let me stop like running away and embrace it. Embrace it, even if the world doesn't want to. Who cares, man? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious then, who are y'all's, I mean, like, to Star's point earlier, like we're sort of the first generation where there's going to be a fever pitch of us where we are, providing probably the most, um, uh, let's say, overt representation for all of our intersections of personhood, like in history. Who has been that for all of you? Like who were you looking to when you were a baby queer to say that could be me one day?
For
I would say one of the first big artists for me when I was first learning about house music and getting my whistle wet as a DJ was the Blessed Madonna, who earlier in their career was known as something else. But they had a song come out called He Is the Voice That I Hear. And I want to say that was like maybe 2015, 2016. And it was such an expansive piece of music. And around that same time, I was also being introduced a little bit later on in my career to artists like Sophie, who I think has completely deconstructed the notion of what music can and should be. Rest in peace. And even up until that point, like I mentioned earlier, I was a film school girly, so
Mm.
I've always been obsessed with movie scores, and just knowing that Wendy Carlos was one of the pioneers of the synthesizer, as a woman who transitioned in the late 60s, early 70s, knowing these things even early on in my career, like really kind of like helped give me an idea that there could be a place at the table for me. And to Ryussi's point, because I want to say this really quick. Anybody who has an issue with us being our authentic selves, or like for speaking up for people when something horrible happens, like if somebody sticks their nose up at that, then like quite frankly, they can, like, I don't want to use the F-bomb because again, you're putting this on YouTube. I don't want to demonetize it, but like they can shove it as far as I'm
yeah,
concerned.
100%.
you know, it's like what kind of place of privilege do you have to be in where it's like you are disgusted by the idea that people just want to be seen and validated and feel like they can be a part of something bigger than themselves.
Exactly.
Like,
Facts. Mic drop.
yeah, and you know, to your point about Jaguar, it's also worth like I also want to shout out Sarah Story, who similar goes out of her way to platform people. Charlie T, rest in peace, Annie Nightingale, when she was a radio host, was constantly putting on persons of color, constantly putting on people from the fringes. Um, BBC Radio One for me when I started as a DJ, I listened to Friday Night Dance every week, like from 2011 up until probably about 2017. Annie Mac was one of the first DJs that I saw in a club. So like, you know, which by the way, historic evening, Annie Mac opening set by Green Velvet, you know, as Cashmere, not as Green Velvet, doing like an old school Chicago house. Phenomenal evening. But yeah, like it's so good to know that there's so many allies and peers working and busting their behind, and fighting this uphill battle just to ensure that there's not just a place for us now in our current timeline, but for the timeline that's coming up behind us. So shout out to the UK. Y'all are doing a much better job than we are here in the
So much
US.
better, girl.
A
So much
lot to aspire to.
better.
Please send J.K. Rowling off to an island somewhere, maybe off the coast of,
We're
I don't
trying.
know. Yeah.
We're all collectively trying.
Are you sure, J.K., you sure you don't want a one-way boat trip to like the middle of the ocean?
She probably
So
does because there's unlikely to be any trans people there.
yeah. You know what they would call J.K. Rowling in space, right?
Black girl.
AstroTurf.
Okay. Mute. Go on mute.
Sorry.
That's enough. Star. Star. I'm curious about who you were looking to as a youngin, especially because your career is so multifaceted and it's so um I don't know, limitless, like boundaryless, it feels like. It really feels like anything that you're interested in, you try and you excel at. So I'm wondering, like, was there anyone that was sort of giving you that push to dream all the wonderful projects that you've dreamed and been a part of?
Honestly, I'll say like it's been Black women. Like I was so inspired in high school when I read and this is gonna be so gay, but I was reading Zora Neale Hurston. And I don't know, I like was really fascinated with the idea of like writing from different perspectives, like she does, and like different voices. And then when I started making music, I was listening to like Anony, but it was Hercules and Love Affair, like
Hmm.
that kind of vocals, and then like Nina Simone's vocals. But I didn't really have anyone that was like, oh my God, like there's like, other than Laverne Cox when she was on Time Magazine, and she came on Time Magazine, I think 2012 versus 2011. That was like the transgender tipping point, but I was already trans. So, and I was like, oh, like maybe I could win an Emmy, but I didn't really think about myself as an actor. So I feel like a lot of my stuff, I was just like doing music because I liked singing and I felt like I had a good voice. I think that it's very, very, very interesting that in alternative music, like indie pop or even rock and roll, we just do not have very many Black people, first of all, and then trans people, there's like none. And I thought that was, I still think that is so weird. And it's not that these people don't exist or there's not people making the music, it's just that the money machine behind making these people like big isn't there.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
just find that it was very hurtful for me personally as a musician to be like, wait, I'm actually making good music. I've been written up in all these things. I'm getting syncs. My music is on a TV show. My music is in film. And like, I never got anyone other than like an indie label in Australia to actually put any money into helping me make my thing bigger. And so then recently, I was like over it. And I went to San Francisco. I went to film school and I was like, oh, I did a digital filmmaking certificate. And then I just applied that sort of stuff to my thoughts and my dreams and my visions. And then I went viral. And so then I was like, okay, like maybe I'll just like make films and maybe I'll make theater again. And that it just re-brought up like my other stuff. I think when you're a person like me, I do definitely pay attention to what's like the trends and then like, oh, like I can do that. And I think that's where it seems like, oh, I can just do anything. But I'm like, it's not really that. It's just more that I'm seeing what the market is giving and I'm like, oh, I can supply what the market wants also, which I think a lot of us don't realize that like that is what it is. At the end of the day, this is show business, not show art. And I've heard people say this many times. And so people who are successful are the people that are able to market themselves effectively at any given time. And that is one thing that I can say for sure that I have a very good skill at is being able to like pivot. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like I'll do this one, I'll do that one because I just like making stuff. Like and sometimes I get sick of it. Like I'll be sick of being a content creator. So then I'm like, I'm trying to go back to music. I was listening to you, Lo, her mix a lot. I was like, wait, like togetherness, that track. I was like, you know what? See, secretly, I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like that's my vibe. I've recently been listening to a lot of like no, old school house music too. And I was listening to, do you know that song Issues? Issues. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to do that. And so that's my next thing. You know, I'm like,
Let's
okay,
go.
I should do that. Like, I'm about to text you, be like, okay, so get together. I'm trying to do
Let's go.
the house
That
EP.
that's so tight. That's so tight. That's so tight. And you know what? That's a really salient point, which sort of leads me to my next sort of talking point for y'all. You know, as creatives and as queer people, right? Like queer people, the marginalized in general tend to build the things that they need, right? Or the things that they have needed. What is y'all's sort of advice and sort of like insight around like being what you need creatively and finding partners that see your vision, that trust your vision, that don't try to box in your vision because of all the different intersections of your personhood. Finding collaborators that are like-minded, finding people with money that are like-minded that want to amplify you and believe that your project is the project, whether or not you're trans, whether or not you're queer. Like, what has been y'all's experience with building infrastructure around you to make sure that yes, you're contributing to the culture, and yes, you're an important representation for the little queer kid in Iowa, but also yes, you can feed your family, yes, you can excel professionally, you can experience the success that you want, that all your wildest dreams can come true. Like, what do y'all have to say about that? Star first.
I'm just
Mother's
saying
always
because I'm
first.
on it right now. But I was thinking about because I've really been thinking about this
Mhm,
specific point of like I have a lot of friends and I'm like, what is the difference between me and some of my friends who we started at the same time and I'm doing other things and they're not? And I'm like,
mhm,
it's because I literally will always keep working. Like even when I'm annoyed, I will like take a break, a breather, but I will like still be working on something. And I think like the people that really I've seen that become really famous are like constantly producing stuff. And I think you don't have to necessarily have the money already to start making stuff. And that I've
mhm,
learned that because the like little Instagram videos I was making, it's like I made that in my living room with a tripod thing and my phone. And then like that's all it really takes. And some of my first music, I was using a looper pedal. And I remember I just like took the things directly off the pedal and went into a little studio in someone's house and then sang my stuff. And then I started putting it out. And people, it's not like the best mix thing, it's not the most whatever, but I was putting myself out there. And I think a lot of people don't put themselves out there and are like perfectionists. Like there's a lot of shitty music that are being made by people that are shitty people. So why not put out your like pretty good music and you're like a pretty good person? Like that's how I feel. And I feel like a lot of queer people get bogged down with the like, I need this money or I need these things. Like, no, girl, you don't. And also, I think a lot of people don't have the gumption to just start cold DMing. I remember when I first put together my very first tour, I was like, oh, I saw some person on Facebook who I liked and they were doing and they were going to these queer parties and I was like, "Ah, I want to do that." I just messaged them, I was like, who booked you for that? And then they told me the person, and I just started cold messaging people like all the time. And I will still do this to this day. It's like if I see something, I'm like, I want to do that, I'll just like cold message the person or try to get my manager now that I have a manager to like, okay, just message this person or I got this person's email, like let's make it happen.
That's some good ass advice. I feel like especially like the most marginalized among us, what I would love, I'm gonna try to like synthesize what you said, but like what I would love for all my marginalized folks, for all my BIPOC creators, for all my queer creators, for all the dolls, for all my trans mass folks, like for everybody that feels like they don't belong in this business, I promise you that you do. And I'm gonna tell you why. Number one, if you have something to make, you should make it. You Nobody's stopping you from making what you want to make. You can think about the rest afterward. Are people going to like it? Are people going to buy it? Am I going to get money for this? The system has been built in this way to funnel you very specific creative works, to funnel you very specific bits of representation, to make you think that you don't belong. And you let them win right away when you just decide that they're right, when you just decide that you don't have anything worth creating because maybe they've decided for you that you're not worth seeing, especially now as the music industry has become globalized and also democratized. There's always a lid for every pot. Everybody there are people, everybody that wants to create, there is somebody that's going to vibe with it. There's somebody that wants to hear it. There's somebody that wants to work on it with you. There's someone that wants to share it. Do not self defeat because this industry will try to defeat you. And that is the first tool in their toolkit to do that. So thank you for sharing that. That is so, so real. And also the burnout of marginalized groups to feel like you're constantly creating and putting out really dope work and then nobody will listen to you because you're queer. Nobody will listen to you. They already have a black artist on the roster. Nobody will listen to you. It's like, nope, sorry, the DEI quota is filled for the next 2 years. Like the burnout and the mental toll that that takes on creatives who are naturally sensitive about our shit. I feel it. And also, you got to push through. You got to push through. Like, we are the most powerful people in this business because we are the culture from which everything comes. That's especially true if you're BIPOC. That is especially true if you're queer. We are the actual cultural hotbed of this industry, of this economy, of this ecosystem that has been built. And that is one thing. They can try to take away all the other stuff. They can try not to give you your money. They can try not to book you for that show, but they can't take that. They can't take that. And if you let them take that, then you have lost before you started. So thank you for sharing that, Star. That's real as fuck. Ryussi, what about you?
Um, I mean, from all my experiences, it's always kind of like happened naturally. So when it came to producing music, like learning how to produce music, I went to uni for 3 months and then I dropped out because basically the loan that they'd given us, it wasn't really going to last the whole time I was there because I was traveling from Luton to London every day. So I dropped out and then I used that money to buy all my equipment. And then when it came to actually learning how to produce, I've actually said this recently because I gave a little backstory on I did a mix for Radio 1 and I played all my own tracks and I stressed the fact that it's taken me 9 years to get to a point where my sound you can tell it's my unique sound, right? It's my style, but I didn't get to go to any education to do music technology in order to learn it. So I just had to basically smash my head at a wall trying to learn all these different things of how to produce music, how to write, arrange, until I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm happy, I've actually made progress. But I did kind of go I did kind of make the process a lot harder than I needed to by not reaching out. But because of where I was at in my life, so having moved out, living with a friend, living with a friend's family, it was like, I really want to do this thing and I've got to make it work by any means necessary. So if that means that I end up doing 12-hour shifts at a bookmakers and then I come back home, or in between my 1 hour lunch break, I'm making music, then it's got to be done. You know what I mean? You always find a way to get through it. And when it came to finding people who wanted to help me along my journey, it's always been the most weirdest situations where I'm like, oh, I met them 5 years ago, and only now they've come into my life where it's like, I can help you, you can help me, but it's not an exchange, it's just naturally that's where you've both met in your journey. So a great example of this is I play for a queer party in London Bridge called Feel It. I'm a resident there, and I met the people who found Feel It. I met Clayton 5 years before I ended up playing for the party in the same venue, because so Clayton founded a dance group called Little Gay Brother, and Little Gay Brother were dancing for Pete Tong's. It's like Ibiza Classics show. So we were filming it, right? Because I used to do the digital marketing. We were in the same venue, we met the same people, and it's like 5 years later, and when I get moments of kind of feeling a bit discouraged or feeling like everything's against me, it's like those are the little gems that life gives you, where it's like, no, you're on the right path. Just keep going a bit further. And you always have a moment where you feel like this is it now. This is like I've made it. And it will never be that moment. It always feels like you're trying to run up and catch up to it. But what I've come to realize with that is that's how it's always going to be. You're always going to be like trying to chase some sort of goal and then feel like this is the moment, this is the big one. That's it, rinse and repeat. Like life is just rinse and repeat, right? Except you kind of level up. So when it comes to finding resources and your people, it just takes time. It takes a long time to find your actual community and it not be forced. Like when people say network, it's like, I'm going here to network. Some people are great at doing it and I commend them because, for example, there's a woman I know, Chanel Carmichael. She is incredible at networking, right? She can just do it. With me, if I'm placed in that situation where it's like, okay, now network, go. I'm just like, I will be in the corner, sort of like observing everything, taking it all in. But I'll meet one person and we'll kind of gravitate towards each other and latch. And it's like, ah, you're a bit weird like me, aren't you? Sort of. Then that's your little bubble. So it just takes time, but you've got to be willing to go out there. Like as I said, 12-hour shifts. I'd either go home and make music, or I'd go straight to the train station and go to XO Wire in Shoreditch, or go to Fabric in Farringdon, like for a night out. Like it's just, you live and breathe it. So if you live and breathe it, why are you trying to rush to accomplish it or now? Like it's gonna last the rest of your life, you know what I mean? So you've got to have that perspective, otherwise you will just be like, what am I doing this for? And even if you do get those what am I doing it for moments, you remember when you reflect, like, it's cool, it all makes sense. Like, so yeah, it just takes time. You've got to let life do its own thing.
That's such a good reminder to stay patient and also in your patience, stay open and spacious. And also, I always say like the universe wants to give you what's yours. And also, you have to help it along. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to
Yeah.
make the most magical connections of your life sitting at home in a darkened room with your hoodie up, like deep in the Ableton bag. You know what I mean? Like, and like that's
Yeah.
fun, that's good,
Yeah.
that's part of the work too, but often a lot of part of the work, especially in this industry, this people forward relationship first industry, is going to
Yeah.
find your people and going to authentically connect with them. And oftentimes
Yeah.
I've found, like, the sort of the best and most fruitful professional collaborations that I've had in my life have come from making friends, you know what I mean? And like making friends first, not going out. I'm like you can't send me into a fucking mix and mingle situation and be like, go close a deal. It's just like, nah, bro, I'm standing at the bar staring at everyone, feeling weird. Um, you gotta go and you gotta go talk to people. You gotta go find your people. So thanks for sharing that. That's dope. That's too real. Baby, wait, you have one of the most close knit um, teams that I've ever seen from an artist, especially an artist of your size. And also, what I really love about your management in particular is that it it takes great care to like not just take care of you and all your business stuff, but make sure that you're collaborating and like being in community with fellow artists. How'd that happen, girl?
Well, first off, it takes a lot to manage a woman that weighs 300 pounds. So to manage an artist of my size, um,
You guys start bent over off camera, girl. Like you're gagging us right now. The whole time with Laura Dern in the corner the whole time, like you're too much.
yeah, always watching, always watching. Um, so it's worth mentioning that I was friends with my team before they became my team. So even before John, who's now reps me as an agent, became my manager for the first time around, um, I had met him through a lot of mutual friends, and he was a fan of my music from the get-go, and was just a fan of me as a person because I was constantly, some of the artists that he represented at the time were friends of mine, and I would pay out of pocket to have them come play shows in DC, and they would crash at my house. And then he made the pitch to Spurlock, who I'd met years before through Walker and Royce, who were friends of mine for a while. And so we were already kind of talking and friendly before we signed anything on a dotted line. And since then, the reason why I haven't moved on from other people, and I have had opportunities from other people to do so, is because I feel as a queer creator, it's really important to surround yourself by people that, first off, aren't just yes people, people that say yes to everything, right?
Facts.
Because as delusional as I am into thinking every idea I have is fabulous, sometimes I do need to be grounded by somebody else. And they're very good at kind of keeping my head from exiting the clouds and going into space. So, they just want me to keep me in the stratosphere, not so much orbiting the planet. And so there's that, and they're very good at that. They're also very attentive. They listen to feedback. They digest that feedback. They don't just, write off any of my insecurities or things that I'm concerned about as delusional or as insane. Like they actually like take the time to be like, okay, this is a queer woman, this is a trans woman, this is somebody who inhabits a body that, according to traditional westernized beauty standards, is not seen as conventionally attractive. Like there's multiple goalposts here that she needs to clear with most stuff. It's like they're very protective. But there's actually something that I watched earlier today before hopping on here, and it was a clip of Tyler the Creator talking about how it's important to be delusional and to surround yourself by people who understand those delusions and share those delusions and enable you to be delusional. Because it's borderline insane to be a young person and be like, I'm going to break into the music industry, or I'm going to be an actress, or I'm going to, the equivalent of that in any other field would be like, I'm going to be an astronaut, or,
Sure.
I'm going to find the cure to people who breathe with their mouth open. It's like, those are all things that are near impossible from a statistical level. And so it takes a very special type of person to not be derailed from any kind of goal like that, right? And so, like, I feel very fortunate that I have surrounded myself by people who not just enable me to be delusional, but understand that I have a vision, and so they put faith in it. And I think that's the difference between, you know, somebody who's a true artist and someone who just makes music, right? Is that an artist is going out of their way to build a world that people can feel like they can be a part of, versus, somebody who just makes music, can just pump out a single, have it come out on a label, they go to a club, they rinse and repeat the same thing over and over and over again. And that's why you have a difference between artists like Madonna or Gaga or Elton John or David Bowie or, Chapel Roan, Charlie XCX, like the list goes on and on. Artists like that, and artists like the majority of whoever is on the Beatport Top 100 any given week. Not to shit on them. They make music, it's good, people like it, by all means. But Ryussi made the point of saying earlier, sometimes when you go to an event, it feels like you're listening to 8 hours of the same song on an endless loop, right? And there's no character. There's no there's nothing, there's no spice, it's just salt and pepper. There's no paprika, like there's like no star anise, there's like none of that, like. And we need that type of we need that type of thing, those types of things to keep things flavorful and to keep things interesting. And so yeah, to anybody that's watching, it's like, if you need a bit of advice, it's like, be delusional, like, and don't be afraid to be delusional. If you have this grand idea of something that you want to do, it's even if you only make it 50% of the way, in the grand scheme of things, that 50% is much more interesting than the 100% that a lot of other people are doing. So, just, that's the tea. It's been spilled. Leave it on the counter. Don't bring out the Bounty to clean it up.
You know what? I'm gonna leave it. I'm literally gonna leave it on the counter, because what I would love for everybody to leave here with today, if they leave with nothing else, the world is a dumpster fire, girl, especially if you're even the littlest bit different. People of color are under attack, immigrants are under attack. There's a full-on genocide happening in Palestine right before our eyes. There's another one happening in the Sudan. Trans people are being legislated out of existence. Queer people are losing protections every day. Women, like everybody that is not white and male, is under attack. And that is really, really hard. And also, do what you can to take care of yourself with that. Do what you can to keep creating in that. And stay as delusional as possible when it comes to you and your peace and your joy and your healing and your work and what you contribute to your community, the impact that you have on the people that you love. And like, that is more than enough any given day. Thank you all so much for being here, and for sharing your insights, for sharing your expertise, and for sharing some vulnerability with me. I really appreciate you. I'm a great admirer of all of you. Femhouse loves you down. I love you down. And I'm just so grateful that I exist at the same time in the world that you beautiful creatives do too. So thanks for all you do.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you. Cheers.
Thank you so much
Same,
for
same.
having me.
Femhouse fam, I'm out to do beep beep in the beep beep, and I'll let you figure out the beep beeps. Peace.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.